The year is 1997. Pokémon Red and Green had released 1 year prior in Japan, and to massive success. On the coattails of this success brewed a Japanese animation to accompany and bolster the franchise to new heights, resulting in what the world would soon know as
Pokémon is now in full mania.
The Pokémon anime was an absolute triumph, and was instrumental in the cultural exchange of Japanese animation in the late 90s to a more mainstream audience. What made the Pokémon anime so good though, was how it brought the world we saw on our Game Boy screens into a new light, bringing life, energy, and even color to these blocky little towns, roads, and well, the Pokémon themselves. Contrasted with what we had previously known as just blinking pixels on an LCD screen and the chirping sounds of the Game Boy, the world of Pokémon became real for the first time. The anime absolutely captured the feeling the original Game Boy games had and turned it into something real and tangible. But as great as it was, one question has sat with me for over 2 decades. Can we track Ash Ketchum's journey through the anime in Pokémon Red and Blue? Let's find out. Shiny. A few things to note before we get started. I'll be using the Fire Red and Leaf Green map to chart out Ash's journey, as it's in full color, making it much more tangible to parse. It's also almost entirely accurate to the original Red and Blue games, with some incredibly minor changes like these. With that out the way, let's act like Team Rocket and stalk the twerp. Pallet Town. Just like the opening for Pokémon Red and Blue, Ash begins his journey in the humble Pallet Town, a small town located in the southwest of the Kanto region. Portrayed as a minuscule little village in the games, with only 3 buildings, its anime representation on the other hand is much grander. The most notable of changes introduced to Pallet Town in the anime is Professor Oak's lab, which now resides on a hill overlooking the town, figureheading the eye-catching and iconic wind turbine we all know and love. Professor Oak's role is largely indistinguishable between the games and the anime, serving as a figure of authority when it comes to Pokemon, a mentor for aspiring trainers, and a professor who bestows Kanto region starters to new trainers, usually of the Bulbasaur, Charmander, or Squirtle variety. As an interesting deviation from the opening to Pokemon Red and Blue, Ash is late to receive his starting Pokemon, and as such, the 3 usual options have already been claimed. Because of this, Professor Oak gives Ash a Pikachu instead, along with a Pokedex and 6 Pokeballs. This Pikachu would become the face of the franchise, and what happened next could only be described as the first symptom of Pokemon Mania. The anime was a huge hit. Pikachu was a huge hit, sparking the creation of a 3rd version of Pokemon Red and Blue, featuring minor gameplay changes with the intention to reflect and cash in on the anime and Pikachu's popularity. In the new version of Pokemon Red and Blue, named Pokemon Yellow, no matter which Pokeball the player selects from the 3 available choices, your rival will snatch it, resulting in Professor Oak giving the player a Pikachu, allowing kids to feel just like the hero of the anime. With his new Pokemon friend in hand, Ash sets out to Route 1 on his journey to become a Pokemon Master. Route 1. North of Pallet Town is Route 1, a road notorious for Wild Pidgey and Rattata, which are great Pokemon for new trainers to battle against and earn some experience points. During Ash's trek along Route 1, he attempts to catch a Pidgey. Though he fails miserably, this moment perfectly reflects many players' first experience encountering wild Pokemon. Ash's failure also serves as a teaching tool for new players in the fundamentals of catching wild Pokemon, as his Pokedex points out that most people weaken a wild Pokemon in battle before attempting to catch it. Spearow are not known to appear on Route 1 in Red, Blue, and Yellow, but this fact doesn't stop Ash from encountering one as he journeys toward Viridian City. In the games, Spearow are known to be wild on Route 17, a little east of Route 1, circling the skies of Cycling Road. Spearow also appear over here on Route 22, just west of Viridian City, which is located extremely close to the northern edges of Route 1, implying that Pokemon locations can bleed into nearby routes. Essentially, the anime is fleshing out the region using a much more natural approach to Pokemon locations. This is expressly shown with the wild Spearow that attacks Ash to protect his young Spearow. We can assume that Ash has strayed from the beaten path that is Route 1 to some degree, as he meets the Cerulean gym leader Misty fishing by a riverbank, further lending strength to the possibility of a less linear route than the games portray. Oh! Also, somehow, someway, Ash catches a glimpse of the legendary Ho-Oh, a Pokemon that wasn't introduced into the franchise until the 2nd generation of games. This gold-colored version of Ho-Oh was an early concept for the Pokemon, which is why it does not line up with its finalized design we see in Generation 2.
Viridian City!
Viridian City. The first major city to appear in the anime and video games is Viridian City, a small city enveloped within a luscious thicket of green trees and blooming flowers. This city happens to be the first location to contain one of the 8 gyms of the Indigo League, though it is initially inaccessible to players due to the gym leader's absence and can only be challenged once the player has received the other 7 gym badges. Being the complete doofus that he is, Ash is unaware of the existence of the Viridian Gym during his time in the city, missing it entirely, and feeling pretty accurate to Red, Blue, and Yellow in the process. Viridian City is also the first location to include a Pokémon Center. Here, players are able to access their Pokémon PC, a machine which allows players to access their Pokémon box and swap any of their 6 Pokémon in their party with any they've caught. This game mechanic is shown in the anime too, though with slight deviations. Pokémon exceeding the party limit are instead sent to Professor Oak, and Ash has been seen to exchange Pokémon with the ones stored in Oak's lab using a machine that transports Pokeballs to different locations. This is also the first time Ash encounters members of Team Rocket, dispatching them and damaging the Pokémon Center with his supercharged Pikachu. Route 2 and Viridian Forest. North of Viridian City is Route 2, a short road at first glance with a dense tangle of trees looming over the left side of the road. Despite the right side of the road resembling that of a usable walkway, 2 small trees block new players off and is only accessible later on with the hidden move cut. Thus, the only way through Route 2 for new players is via Viridian Forest, a natural maze for trainers to get lost in, with its thick canopy permitting little sunlight, as the ground teems with bug-type Pokemon of the Caterpie and Weedle evolution lines. Here we find Ash and Misty as they travel toward Pewter City. As they progress through Viridian Forest, Ash encounters and catches a Caterpie and Pidgeotto, showing growth as a Pokemon trainer by implementing the commonly practiced catching technique his Pokedex taught him. Originally, Pidgey and Pidgeotto could not be found within Viridian Forest, but this was changed with the introduction of Pokemon Yellow, introducing these 2 Pokemon into the wild spawns, allowing players a chance at replicating the iconic moment Ash catches his Pidgeotto. After gaining some experience in battle with Pidgeotto, Ash's Caterpie evolves into a Metapod, and although Metapod can be found wild within Viridian Forest too, from a player's perspective, it's much better to catch a Caterpie and evolve it, due to the fact that wild Metapod's move pool consists of just one single move, Harden, a status move that increases its defense stat by 1 stage, which makes it a complete chore to battle with and gain experience points. Unfortunately for Ash, and because it's the anime, this is exactly what happens when he uses his Metapod in battle against another trainer. Though with the accumulated experience points from this battle, and those prior, Metapod evolves yet again. This is because bug Pokemon were designed to be easy to use for beginners. As they exit the forest back onto Route 2, Ash and Misty head north towards Pewter City. Pewter City. Pewter City is the second major town Ash visits, and is home of the Rock-type Gym, along with the famous Pewter Science Museum, which is located in the northern reaches of the city. The museum displays important artifacts and fossils found throughout Pokemon history, along with dioramas for the public to observe. Though considered a main attraction by Kanto tourism guides, Ash simply ignores the museum's existence, gunning straight toward the first gym challenge. The Pewter City Gym has a heavy focus on rock-type Pokemon, led by the Man of Stone, a man who wishes he could constantly get his rocks off, Brock, and he's back on the block.
I'm Brock, back on the block from a quick little stint with Ivy's flock. 2 things on my list ain't many, a kiss from Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny.
Ash's team at this point is composed of 1 electric type, 1 normal flying type, and 1 bug flying type, making his team extremely weak to rock type Pokemon, with Butterfree having a 4 times weakness to rock attacks, Pidgeotto being 2 times weak, and Pikachu dealing and receiving neutral damage. Because of this, Ash has an extremely tough time battling against Brock's incredible Onix, whose dual typing of rock and ground nullify Ash's only option of dealing neutrally effective damage, due to his outright immunity to electric type attacks. Brock is an interesting wolf for players to challenge in Pokémon Red and Blue, as the game itself has no difficulty options, and so the early game difficulty can be determined by the player, depending on which starter Pokémon they select. Bulbasaur and Squirtle both have favorable matchups against Rock-type Pokémon. However, Charmander, being the Fire-type Pokémon that it is weak to Rock and Ground. This means if a player selects Charmander, they will have a much harder time against Brock, as all encounterable wild Pokémon before Pewter City are either weak to Rock-type moves or neutrally effective. As a side note, although Brock's team predominantly features Rock-type Pokémon, members of his gym also use purely Ground-type Pokémon, such as Diglett and Sandshrew. These Pokémon have super effective moves against Electric types, whilst also being immune to Electric-type attacks, making Pokémon Yellow a difficult game to begin with. After collecting his Boulder badge, along with making a new friend with Brock, the trio of trainers head towards Cerulean City. Route 3, Mount Moon, and Route 4. Leaving Pewter City and heading east takes us to Route 3, a winding road cut between two mountains, littered with Pokemon trainers raring to battle while the imposing Mount Moon draws ever closer. The end of Route 3 is rather barren, bar the lone Pokemon Center that sits next to the entrance of Mount Moon. And although this Pokemon Center isn't featured in the anime, there is a certain NPC that does. A traveling salesman has set up shop inside the building, offering to sell his rare and powerful Magikarp for 500 Pokédollars. This specific event appears in the anime on board the SS Anne, which we'll be covering later, in which James of Team Rocket purchases a Magikarp from the shady salesman for an exorbitant price, bankrupting not only himself, but his partner Jessie too in the process. The interior to Mount Moon is the second maze-like dungeon area found in Pokémon Red and Blue, absolutely dwarfing Viridian Forest in scope. It's composed of 3 floor levels, and with the use of multiple ladders, players are able to travel up and down as they feel their way through the mountain and its hordes of Geodude and Zubat. Mount Moon is a natural location for wild Clefairy to appear, due to the exceedingly common meteor showers found in the area. These shards of meteorites are actually moonstones, which are a special type of item that allows Clefairy to evolve into Clefable. Mount Moon in the anime is far less impressive in terms of structure, but what it lacks in maze-like qualities, it makes up for with scenic beauty. The center of the mountain being a shrine made by the Clefairy for their enormous moonstone meteorite. And it's here that Ash and the gang witness Clefairy and Clefable dancing around their giant stone, as the light of the moon shines down on them through the gaps in the cave's ceiling. Jessie and James of Team Rocket attempt to steal the Moonstone, but are ultimately thwarted by Ash and the gang, resulting in them blasting off in the usual fashion. And Pokemon Yellow once again references this anime scenario, having both Jessie and James appear inside Mount Moon. Players who have watched the show will quickly notice the obvious deviations from this storyline, as Jessie and James attack the player in the hopes of stealing the Pokemon fossil the player had found, as opposed to the giant Moonstone worshipped by the Clefairy. As Ash and the gang find their way out of Mount Moon, only a short trek along Route 4 stands between them and Cerulean City. Cerulean City. And so, Ash, Misty, and Brock arrive in the beautiful city of flowing water and blooming flowers, known as Cerulean City, the first location in Pokemon Red and Blue to actually be worthy of the title City, as it features a whopping 11 buildings. During the first series of the Pokemon anime, Ash iconically had all 3 of the Kanto starters on his team, and although he currently has none of them at this point, Pokemon Yellow looked to distribute Kanto starters to players through in-game trade events. Cerulean City happens to be the first place on the list for Pokemon Yellow players to get their hands on a Kanto starter, being Bulbasaur, and one step closer to copying Ash's iconic Indigo League team. The city is also famous for its gym's focus on water-type Pokemon, and is led by Misty, the very same Misty who has joined Ash on his journey through Kanto. The battle for the Cascade badge at the Cerulean Gym would prove to be difficult for Ash due to his budding friendship with the gym's leader, Misty. This is exemplified when Pikachu refuses to battle Misty, considering her a friend, and forcing Ash to pick Butterfree and Pidgeotto in his battle against her Staryu and Starmie, which just so happened to be accurate to her team in Pokemon Red and Blue. After an intense battle with Misty and the Cascade badge in hand, the trio heads south towards Vermilion City. But before we leave, it's worth noting that in Pokemon Yellow, above Cerulean City on Route 24, is a trainer waiting to bestow a Charmander to the player, marking the second Kanto starter the player will receive during their playthrough. Filler Route F1. So after closely following the video game routes and towns, the anime inevitably takes a drastic turn, as Ash visits what we in the professional field of studying the Pokemon franchise call anime-exclusive locations. These locations are usually only seen once or twice in the show, and more likely than not, never mentioned again. So it's our job to trace out where we roughly believe these locations to be. This was unfortunately inevitable, as the anime was contracted to have a set amount of episodes, and thus the story and locations needed to be padded to adhere to the contracted amount of episodes, whilst maintaining an enjoyable story pacing. If we take a look at Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, we can ascertain that access to Saffron City is unavailable from Cerulean City, due to a thirsty guard requiring a drink. I also believe that Ash and the gang did not head southeast along Route 9, as they do not pass anywhere near Lavender Town, and because we know that Ash is on his way to Vermilion City, we can deduce that they are heading south from Cerulean City, but just off the beaten path of Route 5 and 6, into what I like to call Filler Route F1. To bolster this theory, it is noted in multiple episodes between Cerulean and Vermilion that Ash and his friends have once again lost their way to Vermilion City, signifying that they are off the main routes presented in the games. There are quite a few of these anime-exclusive locations littered on the path Ash and his friends take towards Vermilion City, though a few very key events happen. Ash obtains all 3 Kanto starter Pokemon on this path, which I believe Pokemon Yellow represents quite accurately, having Bulbasaur and Charmander obtainable by Cerulean City, and Squirtle being obtainable from an NPC in the upcoming Vermilion City. One stop on their way that I find absolutely fascinating though is Bill's Lighthouse, and just how different Ash's encounter with Bill is in comparison to the games. Bill is an NPC featured in Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, and is famous for inventing the Pokemon storage system. In these games, his house resides on the end of Route 25, just above Cerulean City. This whole storyline is oddly different in the anime though, placing his residence on a lighthouse perched on a cliff edge somewhere along this filler route, likely around this area. Bill's initial presence in the game is pretty confusing for first-time players, as he has taken the form of a Pokemon after accidentally altering his DNA, similar to the 1986 movie The Fly, requiring the player to press a button on the machine to revert the changes. The anime's portrayal of these events moves away from the horror movie copy-paster of The Fly, toning it down for TV audiences. Children. Bill finds himself stuck inside of a Kabuto costume he was wearing to, and I quote, get inside the mind of a Pokemon. Thematically, this is fairly similar to the video game events, but I can understand the decision to change the key elements, and the change in location was likely to suit the needs of the anime show writers, allowing them to keep pace with the games without Ash and the gang taking too much of a detour from their trajectory. Vermilion City. After 6 episodes of walking off the beaten path, or 2 weeks according to the narrator, Ash and his friends finally arrive at Vermilion City, home of Kanto's international port where ships from all around the world intersect. The most famous of these ships being the SS Anne, a luxury cruise liner that sails the globe, stopping at Vermilion City just once a year. Vermilion City is also home of the Electric-type gym, led by the Lightning American, Lieutenant Surge, a war veteran who fell in love with Electric-type Pokemon after one saved his life. In the games, his team consists of 3 electric Pokemon, being Voltorb, Pikachu, and Pikachu's evolved form, Raichu. The anime sidesteps this lineup of Pokemon though, instead opting to only use a single Raichu, forcing trainers to challenge him to a one-on-one battle. Perhaps the best thing to come about this change is Lieutenant Surge mocking Ash for having an unevolved Pokemon on his team, whilst he flexes his fully evolved Raichu. Oh, the poetic irony that in Pokemon Red and Blue, his team also contained 2 unevolved Pokemon, one of which being the very one he mocked in the anime. Determined to prove itself, Ash's Pikachu takes Surge's Raichu head-on, proving that Pokemon don't need to be fully evolved in order to be strong, and it did this without holding a Light Ball or an Evolite. After winning the Thunder Badge from the Vermilion Gym, Ash and his friends are given free tickets to board the SS Anne. SS Anne. The SS Anne, or Saint Anne as it's known in the anime and in Japan, is a luxury cruise liner where wealthy Pokemon trainers and collectors gather to battle and trade whilst they voyage the 7 seas. Being a luxury cruise liner, it's only natural that the ship would eventually depart from Vermilion City. And unlike the video games, Ash and his friends are on board as it begins its voyage across the world. His time on the SS Anne reflects the game's portrayal perfectly, as he both spectates and participates in battles with other trainers on board. It's also here that the anime shows us how Pokemon trading works, showcasing a large machine that resembles the machine used in Pokemon Red and Blue's Cable Club. It's also here where the aforementioned Magikarp salesman appears, swindling James of Team Rocket. During their voyage, Ash battles and dispatches a squad of Team Rocket grunts attempting to steal passengers' Pokemon, and during this kerfuffle, the ship sails directly into a storm, sinking it in glorious Titanic fashion. Narrowly avoiding drowning on board the sunken SS Anne, shipwrecked and lost, the gang finds themselves at a new location, and at the start of the road we lovingly call Filler Route F2. Filler Route F2. Unconscious and washed up on the shores of an unknown island, Ash and his friends are discovered by a group of giant Pokemon and chased around this new anime-exclusive location. If it wasn't confirmed in the episode that these giant Pokemon are in fact mechanical attractions for a theme park called Pokemon Land, then I'd be all over the Dynamax theories tenfold. Surviving near death at the hands of the giant mechanical Pikachu, Ash and his friends find their way off the island, leaving via tourist boat as they head toward the next anime-exclusive location, Porta Vista, a stepping stone for their journey back to Kanto's mainland and home of 2 infamous banned episodes, one of which was banned for 3 months due to the sensitivity of the 9/11 World Trade Center tragedy, as it features a giant tentacruel destroying an entire cityscape. So without sounding tone-deaf or insensitive myself, we'll be moving on from this one. After their time in the banned episode Hell Zone of Porta Vista, Ash, Misty, and Brock catch a ferry and head to yet another anime-exclusive location called Maiden's Peak, a haunted little town that holds a yearly summer festival for a departed young maiden, awaiting her love to return home from the war. Due to the visual geography we see at Maiden's Peak, along with Ash's trajectory aiming towards Saffron City, it's clear to me that this anime-exclusive location is situated in this bay to the southwest of Saffron City. Along the way, in one of the most heartfelt moments in Pokemon anime history, Ash parts way with his Butterfree, allowing it to find a mate and live its mature life happy and free. With his eyes misting up, Ash makes his way to Saffron City, where the Psychic-type gym and his 4th badge await him. Saffron City. Saffron City is the largest of all in the Kanto region, a thriving metropolis full of wonder and excitement, and also home of the famous Sylph Co. Situated in the city are 2 Pokemon gyms, being the Psychic-type gym and the Fighting Dojo, led by Sabrina and Master Kochi respectively. In the games, these 2 gyms originally competed with one another to decide which would be the official Indigo League gym of Saffron City, and due to the type advantage Psychic has over Fighting, Sabrina's gym won out, becoming another step in the Indigo League gym challenge for would-be Pokemon Masters. This didn't stop Master Kochi from keeping his gym open though, turning it into a dojo, and allowing players to enter the dojo and compete against black belt trainers as they work their way to challenging Master Kochi himself, rewarding players with a Hitmonchan or Hitmonlee for their victory. The Fighting Dojo does not appear in the anime when Ash visits Saffron City. For now, Ash is here to challenge the Psychic-type gym led by Sabrina, a mysterious girl with a powerful psychic link to her Pokemon. In Red and Blue, her team contains many psychic Pokemon, most notably Kadabra and Alakazam. However, Pokemon Yellow changed her team composition to feature just Kadabra and Alakazam, and a new addition to reflect the events in the anime, a single Abra. This was intended to mirror Ash's battle with Sabrina, as her Abra evolves mid-battle into Kadabra, consequently causing Ash to lose the gym battle. Determined to beat Sabrina and earn a Marsh badge, Ash sets course towards Lavender Town in the hopes of catching a Ghost-type Pokemon, a typing that is typically super effective against Psychic Pokemon. Though you may remember back in your childhood days of playing Red and Blue that the only weakness Psychic types had were Bug Pokemon. This was due to an error in the coding, causing Psychic Pokemon to be immune to Ghosts, propelling them to the strongest typing next to Dragon. Route 8 and Lavender Town. Located in the northeast reaches of Kanto is Lavender Town, a small, rural village famous for its Pokémon Tower, a haunted 7-story building and final resting place for deceased Pokémon. Because of the town's deep spiritual connection to the deceased, there are many ghost-type Pokémon lurking in the shadows of this eerie village. After quickly arriving in Lavender Town, Ash sets his sights on the Pokémon Tower in order to capture a ghost Pokémon for his rematch against Sabrina. In Red, Blue, and Yellow, players needed to first obtain a Silph Scope from the Team Rocket hideout in Celadon City before tackling the Pokémon Tower. With this item, players were able to identify the lost spirits that linger in the tower as ghost-type Pokémon, thus making them susceptible to Pokémon battles, and more importantly, being captured. Pokemon Yellow had Jessie and James appear at the end of the Pokemon Tower, holding a very important resident of Lavender Town hostage, someone who just so happens to have very important bonds to the Team Rocket organization in the anime, Mr. Fuji. Jessie and James's anime antics at the Pokemon Tower are far tamer in comparison, resulting in mere humorous comedy hijinks as per usual. In fact, Mr. Fuji is not mentioned once during Ash's visit to Lavender Town, and I believe this is because the writers had already planned to use him for an important role in the masterpiece that is the Pokemon First movie. If you want to know more about Mr. Fuji and his bonds with Team Rocket, consider watching my video about the legendary Pokemon Mewtwo. With nary a Silph Scope to be seen or mentioned, Ash rushes headlong into the Pokemon Tower, where he is confronted by a mischievous trio of ghost Pokemon. But after dealing with the hijinks caused by Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar, Ash convinces the Haunter of the trio to join him for his rematch against Sabrina. It's important to note, or should I say, to emphasize, that Ash does not catch this Haunter, and it only comes along because it enjoys messing around with Ash. The return to Saffron City. With a newly befriended Haunter, Ash challenges Sabrina again in an official Indigo League match. This all falls apart fairly quickly though, when Ash attempts to choose Haunter as his Pokemon of choice for the battle. Due to the mischievous nature of the prankster ghost Pokemon, it disappears entirely at the start of the battle. So with no Haunter, and no other Pokemon strong enough to take on Sabrina's Kadabra, Ash is forced to forfeit the match for a second time. And well, it gets a little weird. After finding Haunter, Ash challenges Sabrina for a third time, cheating his way yet again into another victory. At the start of the battle, Haunter vanishes just like before, but deciding to persevere, Ash sends out his Pikachu. Right at this moment, the missing Haunter reappears in front of Sabrina, startling her and temporarily severing her psychic link with Kadabra. This is honestly one of the most heinous wins under Ash's belt, but hey, a dub's a dub, am I right? With another stolen victory under his belt, Ash leaves Saffron City with a marsh badge in hand, heading west towards Celadon City. Route 7. On the path to Celadon City, Ash encounters a commonly found species of Pokemon on Route 7, Mankey, a fighting-type Pokemon known for its aggressive temperament and physical strength. After antagonizing the Mankey one too many times, it evolves into a Primeape, rampaging all along Route 7 with a rage that could not be quenched. After a good too many scraps with the enraged Primeape, Ash manages to catch it, and the trio continue west towards Celadon City. Celadon City. Known throughout the region as the City of Rainbow Dreams, Celadon City has the highest population of any location in Kanto, and because of this, the town features a luxurious Pokemon superstore, a high-rolling game corner for gamble addicts, and a magnificent hotel for tourists to rest in after a long day of living the high life. Celadon City is also the home of the Grass-type gym led by Erica, a sincere young woman enamored with Grass-type Pokemon and a practitioner of traditional Japanese culture. While visiting department stores and touring Celadon City, Ash and the gang eventually make their way to Celadon City's gym, ready to challenge Erica for a shot at the Rainbow Badge. If we take a look at Erica's team in Pokemon Yellow, we can see her team of Pokemon completely line up with the ones she's used in the anime, being Tangler, Weeping Bell, and Gloom. Being a Grass-type gym, Ash's advantage becomes instantly apparent as he has access to a Fire-type Pokemon. However, despite the obvious advantage Charmander would bring, he instead chooses to start the battle with a Bulbasaur. Now you may be thinking, grass Pokemon are immune to the effects of grass-type status moves, such as Sleep Powder or Stun Spore, so surely he made a brilliant choice selecting Bulbasaur as his first Pokemon for the battle. But something of interest new players may not be aware of is that the immunity grass Pokemon have for grass-type status moves was only implemented in Generation 6 onward. This means that prior to Pokemon X and Y, grass-type Pokemon could be affected by moves such as Stun Spore, which is exactly what happens, causing Bulbasaur to lose the first round. Charmander, on the other hand, is still a solid pick, which is exactly who Ash selects for his second round, annihilating Weeping Bell in a matter of seconds with its super effective Flamethrower attack. Before the third round can start, Team Rocket attack, forcing the match to be postponed, and Erica, witnessing Ash's bravery, decides to give him the Rainbow Badge, despite the minor technicality of not winning the gym battle. Are we starting to notice a pattern here? Anyway, with the Rainbow Badge in hand and ego boosted even further, the trio set off for the next gym challenge, all the way in Fuchsia City. Filler Route F3. So here it is, everyone. This is where it all falls apart, and so much more so than the previous filler routes. Filler Route F1 and F2, although they may have used anime-exclusive locations as a crutch, at least had some semblance of geographical consistency. Filler Route F3, on the other hand, completely jumps the shark. There is no logical way Ash could have made his way from Celadon City all the way to Fuchsia City without passing any of these landmarks or cities, especially the iconic bicycle road, which does make an appearance later on. We are at an impasse here, people, and yet the show must go on, so allow me to present to you Filler Route F3, or as I've been calling it to my friends, somehow they get to Fuchsia City, I guess. Along the way through this uneventful collection of episodes taking place in different anime-exclusive locations, Ash and the gang do some uneventful activities in some uneventful locations with some uneventful single-episode characters. But all is not lost. Cast your mind back to a few minutes ago back in Saffron City and the fighting dojo from Pokémon Red and Blue. For now is the time to draw upon that dojo and connect it to the episode that takes place just before Ash arrives at Fuchsia City. On Filler Route F3, Ash, Misty, and Brock run into a lone Hitmonchan blocking their path. Determined to defeat it, Pikachu challenges the Hitmonchan, but is ultimately beaten, and it is here that we learn that this Hitmonchan actually belongs to a trainer who resides in the Fighting Spirit Gym, training for a fighting-type exclusive Pokemon tournament. Now, this gym is of course an anime-exclusive location, and we are far, far away from Saffron City where the fighting dojo resides in the games. However, the parallels are uncanny, and this may be the anime's answer for referencing the fighting dojo, so I'll take it. Ash competes in the tournament with his rampaging Primeape, ultimately choosing to give his Primeape away after winning so that it may pursue a life of being a fighting-type champion. And so, with another of Ash's Pokemon gone, the trio press onward to Fuchsia City. Fuchsia City. At the very bottom of the Kanto mainland hides Fuchsia City, home of the famous Safari Zone, a staple area in most Pokemon video games, in which trainers are given the opportunity to capture rare and exotic Pokemon in exchange for 500 Pokédollars. But perhaps more infamously, the Safari Zone is home of a very, very banned anime episode, but we'll be talking about that later. For now, Fuchsia City is also home of the official Indigo League gym shrouded in mystery, the Poison-type gym, led by Master Koga, a practitioner in the art of ninjutsu and master of all Poison-type Pokemon. His skills are so recognized that in Generation 2 video games he would become one of the Elite Four at the Indigo Plateau. Ash and the gang are lost on what appears to be the outskirts of Fuchsia City as they try and locate the Poison-type gym. Stumbling upon an old mansion, Misty leans against a wall for a moment of respite, only to stumble into the building. And what they stumble into just so happens to be a rather imaginative interpretation of the Fuchsia City gym, full to the brim with secret passages, trick walls and doors that any would-be ninja might instantly fall in love with. You see, in Red, Blue, and Yellow, the Fuchsia City gym has a pretty nifty gimmick. On the surface, it seems to be a clear path to the gym leader in the center of the room. However, the twist is that this room is full of invisible walls, obfuscating the route to the leader. Ash's battle with Master Koga is fairly straightforward, with no real type advantages to take advantage of, ultimately resulting in a victory and earning himself a soul badge. And so, the trio head off as they journey to their next main destination, Cinnabar Island. But what about the Safari Zone, I hear you ask? Well, the Safari Zone received some massive changes in the anime, so for now, get ready for the road to the Safari Zone. Safari Land. Those of you familiar with Pokémon Red, Blue, and Yellow, or any of the multitude of remakes of the Kanto region, will be aware that the Safari Zone is located within Fuchsia City. This is not the case in the anime, as they go for a much more imaginative option, turning the Safari Zone in what seems to be a rather large expanse of land, filling up a whopping 3 episodes. So which direction is this so-called Safari Land? Well, we know the trio are attempting to make their way to the next Indigo League gym on Cinnabar Island. However, if we take a look 3 episodes ahead, we can see that Ash and the gang end up on the Bicycle Road, likely being this road here that connects the outskirts of Celadon City to that of Fuchsia City. With this knowledge, it's safe to assume that the Safari Land resides somewhere around here, but it's nebulous to say the least. Along the way to the Safari Zone, Ash and the gang end up in what the anime calls Safari Land. And my best interpretation of this is that this Safari Land was derived from the concept of the Safari Zone and the Pokémon Zoo found in Fuchsia City in the games. After a few uneventful 3 episodes of events through Safari Land, one of which being oddly similar to the newest Pokemon movie Secrets of the Jungle, the trio finally arrive at the Safari Zone. And what's so interesting about this is, if you were a Western Pokemon fan, you'd never even see Ash get here. You see, the episode in which Ash visits the Safari Zone ended up being banned in almost all countries outside of Japan for having the Safari Zone warden draw his gun and aim it at Ash from point-blank range, threatening to burn him if he breaks any of the Safari Zone rules. This episode's banning caused global confusion for non-Japanese viewers, as it was here in the Safari Zone that Ash caught 30 Tauros, which would then be referenced multiple times throughout the rest of the anime. The anime Safari Zone rules are actually very accurate to the video games, as both versions implement strict stipulations that the Safari Zone visitors may only catch Pokemon using just 30 of the special Safari Zone balls. So it's a real shame that most Pokemon fans missed an iconic episode that was focused on replicating the feeling the Safari Zone gave many players of Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. Sending 30 Tauros to Professor Oak, Ash and the gang head off to their next destination. Cycling Road, Route 18 and 17. Following their visit from the Safari Zone, Ash, Misty, and Brock arrive at a bridge under construction. Despite connecting to an anime-exclusive location named Sunny Town, this bridge is very likely the same cycling road found on Route 17 and 18 in the games, due to its proximity to the Safari Zone, connecting the route just before Celadon City to that of Fuchsia City, and greatly exemplifying my distress towards the somehow they get to Fuchsia City, I guess, arc. Being instructed to use a bike in order to travel over the bridge, Ash and his friends check out a nearby bicycle store, but they are way too poor for the prices, which is a pretty cool nod to how ludicrously expensive bikes are in Red, Blue, and Yellow. After being asked by Nurse Joy to deliver some medicine to a Pokemon Center in Sunnytown, Ash, Misty, and Brock lent some spare bicycles in order to traverse the cycling road. On this road, the trio are attacked by a bicycle gang, challenging them to a Pokemon battle with their Golem and Cloyster. Considering how accurate the trainers found on Bicycle Road that the bicycle gang's visual theme and aesthetic is in the anime to that of the games, it's a real shame none of the bikers in Red, Blue, and Yellow use a Golem or Cloyster. With the medicine delivered to the Sunnytown Pokemon Center, Ash, Misty, and Brock set off on their long, arduous journey towards Cinnabar Island. But where exactly is Sunnytown on the Kanto region map? Well, Ash came from Fuchsia City, ending up on the Bicycle Road on Route 18. From this information, we can assume that Sunnytown is at the end of Route 17, which places Ash and his friends right here, next to Celadon City once again. This is going to cause us even more of a headache, as the next gym location is on Cinnabar Island, all the way down here. Fortunately, the anime has 23 episodes of filler before we get to Cinnabar Island, so, buckle up. Filler Route F4. So, from the tip of Route 17 all the way down to Cinnabar Island, whilst avoiding all major landmarks, huh? This 23 episode haul of filler is probably the anime's greatest failing at replicating the Kanto region, much more so than the previous filler route from Celadon to Fuchsia. But where it fails in accuracy, it makes up for with sheer enjoyability, as some of my favorite episodes appear during this filler arc. But unfortunately, for as fun as this filler arc is, it also contains the infamous Electric Soldier Porygon episode that caused 700 people in Japan to have epileptic seizures, forcing the episode to be banned worldwide. One landmark on this filler route we can identify though is the sleeping Snorlax, blocking the flow of water in a river and is unawakeable without the help of a Pokeflute. In Red, Blue, and Yellow, there are 2 instances of a sleeping Snorlax blocking the player's paths on Route 16 here, and on Route 11 down here. It's impossible to know for sure, but given the circumstances, the one featured in the anime is likely a reference to these 2 Snorlax, and thus we can assume that Ash's trajectory is likely crossing through Route 16 or Route 11. Towards the end of this filler route, Ash meets up with Todd Snap from Pokemon Snap fame, who stuck around for a good couple of episodes. Honestly, Todd's inclusion with the gang feels so natural, I was a little disappointed when he left the group. Oh, also on this route, Ash's Charmander evolves all the way into a Charizard! Cinnabar Island. And so, finally, after 23 episodes, Ash and the gang finally arrive at Cinnabar Island via ferry. Located in the southwest region of Kanto and directly south of Pallet Town, the island is home to a giant active volcano, and in the following generation of video games would desolate the island, leaving it almost completely barren. But for now though, the island is habitable, sporting many important landmarks in the Kanto region, such as the fire-type gym led by Blaine, and perhaps even more notably, the Pokemon Mansion, birthplace of the genetically engineered Pokemon Mewtwo. Oh, but how the anime really screwed the Poochiana with Cinnabar Island. You see, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow's Cinnabar Island was one of the most important locations players could visit to learn about Mewtwo, finding old research documents deep within the Pokemon Mansion. The anime changed all of this, shoving Mewtwo's story to an anime-exclusive location called New Island. This ended up changing the anime experience on Cinnabar Island to a rather dull affair for what should have been an extremely exciting plotline. However, I'm not too mad about this because Pokemon the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, actually slaps super hard, as I'm sure you're well aware. Anyway, arriving on Cinnabar Island, Ash instantly seeks out the gym, but is bamboozled by an odd-looking old man who presents Ash with a riddle in order to find the gym's location. Though not entirely accurate to the games, this is still a neat reference, as Blaine's gym gimmick in Pokemon Red and Blue features trainers that quiz the player and allow them to pass without battling having answered correctly. This combined with the fact that Ash must discover the location of the gym, much like how the player in the games must first find the key to the gym hidden within the Pokemon Mansion, is an admirable attempt and is probably only this way due to the way the writers had planned to deal with Mewtwo. The Cinnabar Island Pokemon Lab also makes a brief appearance, though it isn't nearly as touched upon as it probably should have been. In Red, Blue, and Yellow, the Cinnabar Island Pokemon Lab is an important place for trainers to visit, allowing players to turn their Pokemon fossils found on Mount Moon into living Pokemon. Having finally figured out the riddle, Ash finds the gym and is startled to discover the very man who gave him the riddle turned out to be the gym leader, Blaine. And he looks nothing like he does in the games. He also doesn't carry any of the Pokemon his team features in Red and Blue, foregoing his Ponyta, Growlithe, Rapidash, and Arcanine for a Ninetales, which did appear in his Pokemon Yellow team, a Rhydon, which isn't even a fire type, and Magmar. This is honestly one of the most epic, iconic, and just all-around amazing battles, climaxing with Ash's Charizard seismic tossing the Magmar straight into the volcano. Pure anime magic. With the volcano badge in hand, Ash and the gang decide to head back to Viridian City and challenge its gym. Just barely missing the last ferry off of Cinnabar Island, Ash bumps into a distressed Wartortle, leading them to a small island just off the coast of Cinnabar in order to help all the sleeping Squirtle and Blastoise. The culprit being a singing Jigglypuff that sends Pokemon to sleep with its move, Sing. And this particular incredibly cute Deus Ex Machina will become a convenient plot device for years to come. The return to Route 2. Waving goodbye to the group of Squirtle and Blastoise, the trio catch a ferry from Cinnabar Island and arrive on the outskirts of Viridian City. It's hard to decide where this would be exactly, but it's important to consider that although the likely option being that the ferry landed at Pallet Town and the trio walked towards Viridian City, this isn't conveyed in the anime, and there's actually more evidence standing against this possibility than for it. You see, when Ash finally does return to Pallet Town, he greets his mum for the first time in a year. I find it incredibly hard to believe that he wouldn't have visited his home had the ferry landed at Pallet Town. So we'll have to assume that it either landed on the edge of Route 2 or Route 1. The return to Cerulean City. Before entering Viridian City to challenge the ground-type gym, Misty's horsey falls ill, and so the trio decide to make a detour to Cerulean City in order to let it swim around the Cerulean Gym's swimming pool to recover its health, along with visiting Misty's family. Weirdly enough, although the trio would have likely passed Pewter City on the way, Brock does not mention nor breathe the names of his siblings. With Misty's horsey recovering at the Cerulean Gym, Ash and the gang set off back the way they came to Viridian City, ready to win his 8th gym badge and qualify for the Indigo League. The return to Route 4 and Mount Moon. On the way through Route 4, Ash, Misty, and Brock encounter a Clefairy that canonically has a spaceship, further elaborating on the Clefairy and Clefable lore that these Pokemon originated from the moon. However, I find the UFO to be a little too far-fetched, but hey, unfortunately, it happened. The return to Viridian City. Having likely passed through Pewter City a second time, along with Route 2, Ash and his friends finally arrive at Viridian City, ready to challenge the mighty ground-type gym led by Giovanni, who just so happens to be the head honcho of Team Rocket. In Red and Blue, Giovanni had a much more prevalent role, with players taking down his villainous plans at Silphco and Saffron City, leading to a dramatic reveal as the leader of the Viridian Gym. However, the anime handles this a slightly different way, as it connects events of the upcoming Pokémon First movie into the anime. Before Ash can enter the gym, he runs into Gary Oak, who barges his way through to be the first to challenge the Viridian City gym, and what happens from this point is truly amazing. Fighting his way through Giovanni's Golem and Kingler, two Pokemon that happen to not feature on his team in Pokémon Red and Blue, or Yellow for that matter, Giovanni sends out his new ultimate weapon, a Pokemon encased in a metallic, gray, threatening armor the likes of which Gary nor his Pokedex could identify. This new mysterious Pokemon tears through Gary's team with not an inch of effort, reducing Gary to a wreck. Startled and haunted by the armored Pokemon, he tells Ash that it would be impossible for him to win an Earth badge against whatever Pokemon that was. Now, I'm sure you can already tell, this mysterious armored Pokemon is actually Mewtwo. Throughout the original Kanto-based video games, none show Giovanni to have any connection to this legendary Pokemon. But something to consider, a revelation if you will, can be found in my massive Mewtwo video. But I'm sure Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon players, along with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee players, may have an inkling of what I'm pointing at. Ash's turn to challenge the Viridian Gym is honestly baffling in comparison to Gary's. Giovanni left on urgent business after his match with Gary, leaving both Jesse and James in charge of the gym, giving them a Machamp, Kingler, and Rhydon to use against challengers, the latter of these three being the only one to feature on Giovanni's actual gym team in Red, Blue, and Yellow. After quickly dispatching Jesse and James of Team Rocket, Ash earns himself his 8th gym badge and is now qualified to compete at the Indigo Plateau. But anyway, with spirits high, Ash, Misty, and Brock make their way to Pallet Town. The return to Pallet Town. With his return to Pallet Town, Ash spends the time he has before the Indigo League Pokemon Championship occasionally training, but more often than not, goofing off and getting into arguments with Gary, who just so happens to have 10 gym badges, confirming that there are in fact more than 8 gyms trainers can challenge in order to participate in the Indigo League. Old Shore Wharf and New Island. It's actually during this time before the championship that the Pokemon First movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, takes place, signaling Ash's first detour from Pallet Town before he makes his way to the Indigo Plateau. After a random trainer battle with someone nearby Pallet Town, Ash encounters a Dragonite, who delivers a letter of challenge from the master of the anime-exclusive location, New Island. To get there, they'll need to go through another anime-exclusive location called Ultra Wharf. The whereabouts of these locations are very hard to pinpoint, though likely they aren't too far away from Pallet Town, due to Ash currently residing in Pallet Town before the Indigo League. I won't be covering the events of New Island in any more detail, as this information is heavily covered in my Mewtwo essay, but having dealt with the crisis unfolding on New Island, and his memory of the events that transpired erased, Ash returns to Pallet Town. Seafoam Islands. Whilst waiting for the Indigo League Championship to begin, Ash, Misty, and Brock are tasked by Professor Oak to visit Seafoam Islands, located at the bottom of the Kanto region, southwest of Fuchsia City. However, the Seafoam Islands featured in the anime are drastically different from those in Pokémon Red, Blue, and Yellow, resembling that of a holiday resort, polarizing to the pair of frozen caverns found in the games. The Seafoam Islands found in Red, Blue, and Yellow are actually two frozen caverns just off the coast of Route 20, riddled with strength puzzles which lead to the legendary Pokemon Articuno, roosting in its icy crevice away from humans. None of this is mentioned in the anime at all, but what we do get is fun shenanigans with zero plot relevance. And hey, who doesn't love a good couple of beach episodes? Judging by the sheer amount of differences between both interpretations of Seafoam Islands, it would be safe to assume that these two locations are different, but for brevity, and because they share the same names, we'll be treating them as one and the same. Though it's worth mentioning that the anime's name for Seafoam Islands is actually Seafoam Island, singular, implying a difference to the islands in the games in the anime, and is further backed up by the fact that the Japanese name for this location in the anime is not shared with the Japanese name for these islands in the games. Finishing his task Professor Oak gave him to learn about Slowpoke's evolution, Ash and the gang goof around the Seafoam Islands for 2 episodes, one of which being a contender for my favorite episode, featuring a surfing Pikachu named Puka. This particular Pikachu found drifting on a dinky raft one day and was rescued by a surfer, and with its unique ability to sense the ocean's waves, it became a quick friend of the surfer. Pokemon Yellow happened to contain a little secret in a beach hut just off of Route 19. If the player's Pikachu knows the move Surf, a move it cannot learn by normal means, then the player is able to partake in a wild little minigame, helping their little Pikachu do some tubular maneuvers. What's so cool about this little Easter egg is its proximity to Seafoam Islands, giving me hope that maybe, just maybe, the little surfing Pikachu in Pokemon Yellow just may be the little Puka who drifted to Seafoam Islands that one fateful morning. Mount Hideaway. After returning to Pallet Town yet again, Ash heads to yet another anime-exclusive location called Mount Hideaway, found not too far away from Pallet Town, and is known for its abnormally large onyx, supersized from the nourishing soil of the mountain. Elite Four member Bruno is known to train here in preparation for the Indigo League Championship, and so, Ash and the gang head to the mountain to seek advice from this legendary Pokemon trainer. This is the only time in the series that an Elite Four member is shown, and even though it's heavily implied that all 4 would be competing, spoilers, but Ash simply doesn't make it far enough through the tournament to challenge any of them. In this episode, Bruno helps and catches the abnormally large Onix, which is likely to reflect his in-game teams, both of which feature 2 Onix with slightly different movesets and levels. Anyway, after training with Bruno, the trio head back to Pallet Town, and, you know, they do some more fillery stuff. Again. Route 22. And so, finally, the time has come for Ash to begin his journey to the Indigo Plateau and compete in the Pokemon League Championship. Setting out from Pallet Town one last time, the trio make their way through Route 22, where they are encountered by a trainer who challenges Ash to a battle for all 8 gym badges, in which Ash not only accepts, but wins, discovering that this trainer had his own gym badges stolen. The trio help get the trainer's badges back and head to the Indigo Plateau, skipping over the entirety of Victory Road, the final dungeon that appeared in Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, and tested players before they entered the Indigo Plateau and the glory of the Kanto Region Pokemon League. The Indigo Plateau. Though Victory Road was in essence completely ignored in the anime, one big reference to the final dungeon in the video games that found its way into the anime is the Flame of Moltres, lighting the torch at the tip of the Indigo Plateau and signifying the start of the Kanto Region Indigo League Championship. You see, the legendary Pokemon Moltres could be found deep within Victory Road and obtainable to tenacious trainers who navigated the cave to challenge it. So it's only fitting that the Flame of Moltres would be the official ritual to kick off the tournament. The flame seemingly contains the noble spirit of Moltres too, and like the Phoenix, it is reborn once more, defending the sanctity of the Indigo Plateau from a Team Rocket attack, igniting the stadium torch, and officially bringing the tournament to a start, as Ash takes his first steps into the big leagues of the Pokemon world. But those aren't the only changes implemented to the Indigo Plateau. In lieu of the Elite Four awaiting Ash at the peak of Route 23 is a new type of challenge, unlike anything seen in any of the original games. A tournament structure, completely abstracted from the traditional Elite Four players will remember. This change to how the Pokemon League is structured actually makes a lot of sense when we consider how the league is presented in the anime. Having all those trainers challenge the Elite Four to have a shot at the champion just couldn't work in any realistic setting, due to the sheer volume of competitors vying for the championship title. This is why the league finals in the anime is presented in a more traditional tournament structure. The prerequisite of owning 8 gym badges could be compared to how VGC uses a point system for players to earn their way to the World Finals by competing in as many tournaments as they can, and perhaps we could view the Elite Four members as seeded players that do not need to compete in the gym challenge in order to be a part of the finals. Coming so close yet so far, Ash earns his way to the top 16 of competitors in the Indigo League, polarizing to how the players of Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow defeat the Elite Four along with the newly crowned champion, becoming the new champion of the region. And so, we come to the end of Ash's journey through the Kanto region, and the historical landmark that was the first season of the Pokemon anime, and the first peak of Pokemon Mania. Ash walked an incredible journey, and I was often surprised and impressed at how well the anime followed the region, albeit the numerous hiccups along the way. Thanks for watching. This whole project took most of the year to produce, and I honestly wasn't expecting that. I started writing this script back in January, and well, time sorta slipped through my fingers. I'd love to be able to do this full time, so if you enjoyed this video, share it with your pals, share it with your parents, I don't know, share it with your Lillipup. I really do want to do a follow-up of this video with Ash's journey through the Johto region, and we'll slowly be working towards that. But the Johto series is literally 3 times as long as the original series. It will happen, but right now you're gonna see some other, smaller projects I've prepared, so remember to subscribe. Anyway, that's enough of an end ramble, plus L plus ratio later, losers! Oh yes, also, Ash returns to Pallet Town once more, completing the journey around Kanto.